Brought to you by 1AAuto.com, your source for quality replacement parts and the best service on the internet.
Hi, I'm Mike Green. I'm one of the owners of 1A Auto. I want to help you save time and money repairing and maintaining your vehicle. I'm going to use my 20 plus years experience restoring and repairing cars and trucks like this to show you the correct way to install parts from 1AAuto.com. The right parts installed correctly. That's going to save you time and money. Thank you and enjoy the video.
In this video, we'll be showing you how to remove a ball joint from this S10 pickup, same as any pickup truck or Blazer. This is just the removal. We do have the installation in a video response to this video. Tools you'll need are metric sockets, anywhere from 10 to 24 millimeters. You also need 18 and 13 millimeter wrenches, jack and jack stands, a 35 millimeter socket for the hub nut, large screwdriver or pry bar, a cold chisel or air chisel, and that's if you're replacing the original ball joints that are riveted in, penetrating oil, and a torque wrench. And we really recommend that you have air tools. You can do it with hand tools, it's just a little more difficult.
Okay, so first, if you're using hand tools, you're going to want to loosen your lug nuts up. Okay, and that's going to be with a 19 millimeter wrench. And you want to do this on the ground, obviously, because that way your wheels won't be moving. Okay, and then the other thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to use your 34 millimeter socket, 35 millimeter actually. Okay. And now I'm going to raise the car up and secure it. Okay, so I've raised the wheel I'm working on up off the ground by putting the jack under there, and then actually I have a jack stand under the frame here, and that's what's going to really hold the weight. So now I'm going to remove the tire. Okay, now I can remove the center hub nut. And the washer. Okay, now I'm going to remove my brake caliper by removing this bolt here, and then down on the back side, this bolt here. Okay, those are 18 millimeter bolts. Okay, now I'm going to use my wrench to just kind of pry the caliper right off. I'm going to rest it right up here. Take the disc off.
Okay, so what you want to do is actually transfer the weight back onto the control arm. So what I'm doing is I'm moving the jack out to the end of the control arm, and then jacking the control arm up so that most of the weight is on the jack, and there's just a little bit of weight on the jack stand that is under the frame.
So now I'm going to remove the clips for the hub harness here and here. Okay, and then the harness goes right up in here. Okay, and I just disconnected it, and then you can just use a screwdriver to kind of, you just want to use a screwdriver to pry it up out of the frame there.
Okay, here, so I'm just coating those two little nuts with penetrating oil, and then I'm going to take the small one off. Actually, I'm going to finish prying that clip up and out, and now I'm going to take the small one off with the 10 millimeter wrench. Okay, and here, this next shot, I'm actually showing you how to get the wrench up in behind there to hold that bolt. So that's where you want to place the wrench in order to hold the bolt on the other side. And now here, I'm just removing that clip bolt. Okay, and here I'm just finishing up, taking out that bolt. I actually like to kind of put the bolt and the nut back into the control arm just for safekeeping, so I know where they are. And then here is the last clip that's on the frame. This is a 13 millimeter bolt, and so I'm unbolting it from the frame here. Okay, and now just pulling the harness out and free, and I'm going to pull the clips off the harness so I can put them onto the new hub harness when I'm ready to install it. Now you want to remove your hub. There's 3 bolts, one on the back, one in the middle and the top, and then one over here in the front. And these are 18 millimeter bolts. Okay, so the front and rear ones you can get to with an impact wrench or a regular wrench. The top one is a little more difficult. You have to use a hand wrench, and it helps if you swivel the steering. That helps you get to the bolts that much easier. And then as you can see, as I'm taking them out, you can pry with a pry bar or a large screwdriver. Places. One right back here, there's a little place that in the flange that you can get a screwdriver into and pry against the steering knuckle. And then also in behind, right where the steering knuckle is, here on the front, and you can see me get it apart now. Just kind of shaking it. You want to be careful not to bend up that backing plate too much. But basically I kind of leave that top bolt in. It's very loose, but it's still in there. Okay, and now you can see the hub comes right out, and pull the harness out and away from the backing plate, and your hub's out. And there's this little rubber O-ring that you want to make sure goes back on correctly. If you put a new hub on, obviously transfer it to the new hub. If you don't, just make sure it's in the correct spot. Now you want to remove this jounce bumper from the top to allow your upper control arm to fall down some more.
Okay, so your ball joint is secured to the control arm here. This is from the front view. There's 2 bolts here. Now this has been replaced before, so it's by bolts. If your ball joint hasn't been replaced before, you'll just see little round rivets. And if it's rivets, you got to use a cold chisel like this and just pound them, shear them right off. Okay, so you're going to remove these bolts or rivets here on the front, and then back here, also on the back. Okay, and then everything's bolted underneath. Okay, you're also going to remove, so you're going to remove, there's the bolts I'm going to remove, and then this is the ball joint shaft, so I'm going to remove this cotter pin and this bolt. Okay, and I'm also going to remove this cotter pin and bolt from the tie rod end. Okay, so I'll go through that in kind of fast motion, and the whole time my jack here is supporting the control arm.
Okay, so here I'm just showing you the best ways to get at these bolts with a wrench to hold them. For the outer ones, you can just kind of do that way. The inner ones, you actually kind of go underneath the shaft and hook on with your bolt. And now I'm just going through fast motion. I'm removing those 4 nuts. I'm just removing the nuts right now. I am actually not removing the bolts from the top. I'm just taking the nuts off the bottom. Okay, and I'm also removing the cotter pin and the bolt from the ball joint. I believe it's either a 22 millimeter or 24 millimeter bolt. Okay, now here I'm removing the cotter pin and the bolt from the tie rod end. I believe that's a 19 millimeter bolt or an 18 millimeter. Okay, and then the tie rod end, you just kind of hit it good with a couple hammer hits and it comes right out. And then the ball joint, the same thing. I'm kind of holding down on top of the control arm and giving a couple whacks with a hammer. Okay, and now what I'm doing is actually now at this point I'm taking out all the bolts from the top, the 4 bolts from the top of the ball joint. I'm removing those, and then after that you kind of pull down on the control arm and towards the rear of the vehicle, and your ball joint comes out. Okay, so that's how you remove your ball joint. We also have a video detailing the installation. It will be it's a reply to this video, so check that out. Brought to you by www.1aauto.com, your source for quality replacement parts and the best service on the internet. Please feel free to call us toll free 888-844-3393. We're the company that's here for you on the internet and in person.